Yo, what's going on guys, Games Good here, back with another video, and today I'm telling you one true scary killer clown stories. I have 7 more stories that I want to tell you, and they're going to be long, so that's why I'm only doing one story per video now, because they're going to be roughly up to 10-15 minutes long. But anyways, enjoy. Serial killer John Wayne Gacy, aka the Killer Clown, lived comfortably in his home with 26 other people, but he lived alone. He had neighbours though, and what if they were the first to realise that all was not well? What would they do? What should they do? I ask this because I'm starting to suspect that I am the unaware neighbour in this story, and I intend to make myself aware. Everyone has weird neighbours, and I am no exception. I work part-time, so I'm at home more than most. Truthfully though, recently I've barely even been working part-time. I could choose to see this as a negative, as with each passing week I drift slightly closer to both unemployed and complete financial collapse. However, these are problems for another time, and I choose to view this as an opportunity. One, to finally prove that there is something wrong, very wrong, taking place next door. Throughout this time at home, I've noticed a few strange things about my neighbour's house. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Rot, that's all I can think to describe it as. Our garages sit side by side to each other, divided by side paths and a wooden fence. Walking down this side path recently for me has become impossible. I have a strong stomach but weak nose, so now I walk my garbage through the house each Tuesday instead. Next thing I noticed were neighbours' new friends and their outfits. Each Thursday night for the last 2 weeks, draped in dark robes, 3 men enter through the roller door. They usually stay for a while, sometimes leaving so late in the night that you'd call it early instead. I could go to the police, but having a house that smells and friends with bad dress sense is not a crime, sadly. Now individually, I have no real problem with living next door to a house that smells, or living next to someone with strange, poorly dressed friends. The problem comes when the smell and those 3 in those robes just happen to be taking place at the same time. There is a link. At this point, the only person I can confidently rely on to get to the bottom of this is me. I arrived home from work on Thursday afternoon and began phasing one of my plans. This phase consists of what you might call rear windowing. I sit quietly in my house, watching through the windows and waiting for the first sign. It comes to me in the form of an aged roller door slowly creeping up, followed by the neighbour, draped in dark robes, welcoming in his new friends, and all dressed in the same dark garb. Viewing this through the kitchen window, I climb onto the bench to get a closer look. Wrapped up in a moment, adrenaline eagerly cruising through my veins, my hand slips, bringing my forehead and the countertop together in a consecutive union, which abruptly halts the voyeuristic adventures of Phase 1. Phase 2 begins as I awake on the floor of my kitchen. My head rings with the reminder that I should have wiped the bench top down after I spilt a glass of water on it several hours before. It's dark, but I still have time. I call the nearest pizza place and order several to my neighbour's address, specifying that the delivery person knock on the roller door. Sending someone else into the den seemed a lot safer than going in myself. Plus it gives me the opportunity to observe from a closer vantage point. One where I can see what's happening, and one where I don't run the risk of knocking myself out for the second time in one night. I hang up the phone and quickly enter the bathroom to assess the damage to my head. After downing something to ease the headache and a quick safety pee, I changed into my darkest silhouettes outfit and quietly exit through the back door. There are a series of bushes in front of the fence which divides our houses. The upside of this location is that by entering through the back I remain concealed. The downside through that is that it's deep within the cone of influence of that horrid smell. Luckily I've prepared for this, and the tissue jammed in my nostril helps take care of most of the problem. I creep down the alleyway into the bushes and begin to wait. Unfortunately, the pizza I've ordered from is notoriously slow at driving, and regardless of my request that they deliver in 20 minutes or else, I reserved myself to rather long wait in this small shop mounted of nature. From this new location I am now close enough to hear their sounds coming from inside the neighbour's house. Though I can't quite make out what anyone is actually saying, there is an intense to the voice which, coupled with the ominous music being played, fills my entire body. Blood are very much included with dread. A car pulls up on the other side of the road, a literally cheesy pizza advert emblazoned across its side. The pizza man steps out and I realise that despite the fact that I came up with this plan over the course of several days and nights. I did not think it through at all. As he walks towards the garage, arms outstretched and filled with boxes, I begin to nervously drive a wrench in the bushes. Thoughts of the atrocious that may be committed on the man if my suspicions were correct flood through my mind. Unfortunately for me, these thoughts aren't the only thing rushing through my mind. As this initial bout of driving wrenching knocks loose their tissue, I jammed in my nostrils. A hot rush of that all too familiar smell blasts through my olfactory sense, challenging the contents of my stomach to stay down and join the stench. The delivery man knocks rice and the roller door slowly begins to open. As I watch the old door slowly creak up, I finally build up the courage to help. If I only achieve one goal in my life, let that goal be saving this poor man. As I scramble out of the bushes towards the door, I'm suddenly hit with the full, terrible realization of the events that have been taking place in this dungeon of horrors. It's worse than anything I could have imagined. The robes are a costume. They're playing Dungeons and Dragons. They're all role-playing as wizards, which thought a terrible strategy if they hope to be remotely successful in the quest they're embarking on. It's a perfect average reason to be entirely draped in dark robes. The final nail in this painful coffin of realization comes as while stumbling still out of sight. I hear the neighbour mention that they were about to order pizza anyway. Thought they'd have requested. He knocked on the front door, not the garage door, as it's further away. That awful smelling bush. A stray cat keeps leaving dead rodents and scraps in there and no one's cleaned it up yet. Everything was completely average. That is everything. Except for that awful smelling man suddenly stumbling towards them. Eyes wide with fear. Smell of a combination of sweat, vomit and concentrated anxiety. Too many words of explanation fill my mouth at once, overflowing without a filter, as I find myself desperately rumbling some form of gibberish about Johnny Wayne Gacy and his cruel space full of dead bodies. Realizing that there was no reasonable way to explain any of this, I quickly turned to run back to my house, twisted my ankle and stumbling sideways, briefly before recovering in a shame-filled beeline to the front door. But that has been me, Scully, over and out.